Hello, everyone. Welcome to the African Tech Authors and Speakers Forum. Our focus here is to impart wisdom and our years of experience and learning to young people in South Africa and Africa who are aspiring writers and conference speakers. It's all about the stuff we wish we knew 20 or 30 years ago that we know now. And I'm so very happy today to be speaking to Cara Bouwer. She's an independent writer and researcher with extensive experience producing and collaborating with business school white papers, case studies, business reports, and thought leadership articles. Through her company, Crazy Grape Media. What a great name for a company. She also provides a range of long and short form editorial and social media solutions for business and financial clients. And she also works with the Gordon Institute of Business Science, or GIBS, the famous business school. And I think Cara has been twice now where we worked together on an article. So welcome, excited to hear about what you can share, but I probably didn't do it any justice. Maybe kick off, Cara, with just a short introduction about yourself, please.
Oh, thanks, Johan. It's always nice to chat to you. I think we spoke last week as well, which was pretty cool. I think you've done it better than I probably could. But yes, I've been freelancing and independent writing since 2009. So that's quite a long time. But it's every day is an adventure because you get to do so many different types of writing and work with different types of clients, so corporate clients, as you say, academic clients, which are wonderful. It's this case of, I think it stretches you a little bit. You don't get into like a little rut. You can keep playing, and that's the nice thing about writing is that you learn different things the whole time. There's always something new and fresh and exciting. So yeah, I get to dip my toe into all of that.
Oh, wonderful. How did you get into writing? Because I don't necessarily know if it's a gift one was born with or whether it's something you learn over time. What was your journey into becoming a writer and an author?
Mine was a bit of a haphazard one, but it seems to be my preferred way of doing things in life. I was like a twisty-turny road. So I actually started off as a sub-editor. I was working on the production side of a sporting newspaper, very short-lived sporting newspaper that was owned by the then TML. So my roots lie in sports, and then later general news. And it was only years later when I started freelancing that I sort of moved more towards sort of innovation and sustainability and technology as subjects of my personal interest. So I wouldn't call myself a technology writer. I do not have the sort of tech knowledge of like someone like a Karen Howe or Salman Gadze or Toby Shapshank. But I'm lucky enough that I write about a diverse range of subjects, and technology and innovation is among those. And I mean, in recent years, we've spoken about AI, but there's things like virtual reality, large language models. I've written about flying planes and drones and biometrics, and it's wonderful. So yeah, so I suppose in terms of getting there, I'm still a work in progress because I'm a jack of all trades.
Well, as we all are, and if you don't think you are a work in progress, something is wrong with you. What, did you actually study journalism or something like that, or did you just get into it? What was the process there?
Again, roundabout routes. When I left school, I enrolled at UNISA, and I did my BA it was English, Communications, and Psychology. And then I did an honours also through UNISA in Communications, Print, Media, and Journalism, because at the time the only journalism degree you could do was Rhodes, and I couldn't get to Rhodes. So I started working. Initially, it was in a hospital, and I would study part-time. And it was only after I got my degree that I got a job as a PA for a publishing company, which is now gone, but called Penta Publications. They used to publish The Cut and Living Africa magazine and Big Screen magazine. And it was there that I started sort of like, putting up my hand to do some proofing here or some writing there. And I started learning about the world of media. But I knew what I wanted to be. I wanted to be flipping Lois Lane from Superman. But it wasn't a straight route. So it's been twists and turns along the way.
And as is the journey often. The other day at a conference, I asked the people about 400 delegates. How many of you are doing today what you studied, if you had the privilege to study? And about only 3 people put up their hands. And I think that's an important message, especially for our aspiring writers, is even if you didn't have the privilege to be educated in journalism or other fields, even if you couldn't go to university, if you have that hunger to tell a story, to learn to write, to make the mistakes that we make, you probably in your own way and in your own voice can make it, Cara. So it's inspiring to hear that, you know, you didn't study journalism, get an internship at a big newspaper, and there you went. You had to walk your path. And also, I think a big part of the story we tell is the pain and the process that we've gone through. How did your process, which wasn't easygoing, it sounds, influence the way you write and how you tell stories?
I think what it does is it's forced me to be not just a generalist, but to be interested in a variety of subjects. So I think what it's also done is it's made me never completely take for granted the opportunities that I've been given. It would have been nice to have had an easier route in, and it would have been nice to have gone into one of those graduate programs and kind of been sort of shepherded through. And if you are lucky enough to have those, then appreciate it. But I think it's just given me an appreciation for the opportunities that I've had, the people who've helped along the way, and to some who continue to be supportive to this day. And yeah, it's just never take anything for granted, you know.
I'm going to edit there because I've lost your voice, Cara. I'm going to sickie. It's probably my internet. Can you still hear me? Okay. Oh, there we go. You're back.
Again. Cool.
Sorry if I ask you. It says the internet is unstable. Damn it. Okay, let's try.
Unstable. It's a thing.
We're talking about AI, and I can't even get my laptop working. But I'll edit this out. Do you mind just answering that question again? Just how I think what I was asking is how you didn't have an easy path, how your life journey influenced your ability to write and tell stories. Sorry to ask you to do it again. If
I'll probably give you a slightly different angle. I would probably say that what it does is it makes you appreciate the breaks that you get when you get them. And sometimes those breaks are really small. You know, it could be an opportunity to proofread something rather than this idea that I think we have as young journalists that I want to write a column, I want to put my opinion out there. And I was exactly the same. I couldn't understand that. Got this degree and nobody was interested. And it was frustrating. And that's why I went the route of becoming a PA and working my way through and up. You've got to look for the gaps. That there are very few people who get a free ride in this world. And so you have to continuously look for opportunities, small though they may be, and don't look at this big picture. That can be your end goal. But you've got to have the stepping stones along the way. And I would say it's given me an appreciation for the little stepping stones that I get. And I will take those opportunities when they arise.
Absolutely. What about clients who ask you to write for them? Now, look, I don't know if I can write about brain surgery and space travel, but I can most probably chat GPT and get it right somewhat. I've had clients who ask me to write for them, like ghostwriting, and it's not always entirely my passion. I can get it right. I find that I procrastinate a lot. It's not something I want to do. Do you kind of avoid that, or for the sake of paying the bills, take the assignments you can, but it's not necessarily your passion? What's your learnings and advice on that?
No, but as a freelancer, that's what you do. Obviously, there's got to be within limits. If somebody asks you to write sort of like a technical article about brain surgery, I would suggest get somebody who's got a medical writing background. But in my case, I ghostwrite a lot. I do a lot of thought leadership writing. I've ghostwritten books, largely business books, and you kind of, particularly when you're younger and you're building up. You know, somebody will say, like, you know, do you want to write a radio script? And you've never written a radio script. So you go and you Google it and you do it. You know, it's a case of not being intimidated by an opportunity. And obviously, if you can't, you say so. I think you need to, as a freelancer, it's part of our bread and butter. And sometimes you will find yourself writing something that maybe you think is deathly boring. But I always find, particularly with ghostwriting, what's nice is that you get to sit and have conversations like this with someone, and they're very informal, and you'll learn loads, and you'll probably distill like 20% or 30% of that conversation into the article. But in the process, you've met someone cool, you've had a great conversation, you've learned lots, and it's a privilege to be in a seat like this, and to get the opportunity to hear these things, because it's like being a little ghost.
And what I get from this, and it is so valuable, Cara, is even though it's not entirely your passion, the opportunity to write about a topic and interview the people is such a journey of self-learning, self-improving. So I think we shouldn't just say no, unless it's brain surgery in our case. But it could be a new topic that could launch a different career. I want to ask you about your method of writing, and I often tell people you have to find your own style. Some people write well in the mornings, some in the evenings, some at home, some in a coffee shop. And we can learn from people like you, but you have to find your own zone. What is your process? Is it handwritten? Is it voice transcription? Is it that blank page on the Word document? It's probably crazy for everyone, but what is your process of actually putting that piece together?
It's a bit of a hybrid. I think it also depends on how you learn and think. So I tend to be quite auditory. So if I do an interview, I'll record that interview, and I don't need the video. I need to hear it. So I record my interviews and I go back to them. Nowadays I'll use Otter AI to do the transcript, but I still like to hear them. And then I'll sit down with the blank page, and I start by re-listening and re-looking at the themes and the things that I found interesting. And as I'm working through that, I'll be like, okay, no, that will work here. That's what we need to say, or I like that sentence, and then it might spark something else. And I'll just like, I use a lot of colors in the way that I write. So I might put a color for something that pertains to a certain theme in the article. So the first draft is usually like oranges and blues and greens, and then you shuffle them around. But without, obviously, if you don't have an audio, you do the research and you do something similar. You sort of compartmentalize things and you theme them. And I always used to say when I first started writing that I had to find a hook. But once I had the intro or the kicker for the piece, and I kind of knew what creativity I could put into it, then it would often flow. But I would sit up sometimes at night and I'd be like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, there's like something there and it's nagging me. And I've never managed to do that Prince Charles thing where he has a little notebook by the bed. So I'm forever emailing myself at like 1, 2 in the morning. Like, yeah, that'll work. Don't forget that. So yeah, that's what I do.
Oh, that's interesting, because I often randomly during the day or during the week get ideas for a piece, and I email myself. The problem with that is my inbox is so full of my stuff, I miss important other emails. Yeah. But I guess whether it's a piece of paper or a notebook or an email or whatever app, your brain is going to distill and process these. You're going to think of angles that at that time sitting there at the computer you won't think about. Do you have a preference of venue and time of the day, or is it just it's your job, you just do it the whole day?
No, definitely, and I've noticed, as I've maybe becoming more self-aware as you get a bit older, but I've definitely noticed that there's like biorhythms at play. So I'm much better if I do my admin and my meetings in the morning, which is kind of counterintuitive because most people say they write better in the morning. I'm better in the afternoon, sort of after lunch, when I can turn off the email, I can put my phone away, and I can just quietly get on with it. Because I find that the distractions and the noise in the morning, people always want something from you. You've got to answer your emails, and often meetings take place in the morning. So I find that I work better in the afternoon. But I blame business day for that, because I worked for years at business day and in the night shift. So my entire biorhythms got messed up from when I was in my 20s. So I find that I can work much better from sort of lunch through to the evening. And then the mornings I'll be like bleary-eyed. So I blame them for that.
And I think it's good for aspiring speakers to learn that. And look, life is busy. You've got kids, you've got school runs, you've got your work stuff. But almost carve out a little time. Now, I'm a morning person, so between 4 and 6 a.m. is my most creative time. Don't ask me after 4 p.m. to do anything. A lot of people prefer evenings. Or if you have a lunch break and it works, go sit in a boardroom, switch off everything that will disturb you, WhatsApps, emails, and just puke it out. Puke it on paper. That's a great saying I heard once.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you. You also asked about venue, and this is also something that I find fascinating because so many freelance writers that I know will say things like, I go to a coffee shop and I sit there and I work and they work well and they work effectively. If you want to make me the least effective, you stick me in a coffee shop with all the distractions. I can't do it. I like my office. I like it set up the way that I work. If I'm not in the office, if I'm away, I like a quiet spot where I have to have my earphones in. But I can't. I much prefer my desk with my stuff and my routine. But I'm peculiar. There's so many freelance writers who will say, no, go to the coffee shop and you don't feel so isolated. I don't feel isolated. I feel fine. But that's my quirk.
The process of experimentation. So for instance, I hate working. I'm sitting at home now. I associate this space with work, so it's a negative association. I love my cappuccinos. I put on my earphones. I've got my little spot where no one may sit. And I'm like, I don't even know the waiter has been to my table. I'm in such a zone. Some people work better on the stoop, in the living room, in the garage, in the car, but it's experiment until you find that zone. But Cara, I want to get to the Otter AI thing because I love Otter AI. I absolutely love it. And I use a number of AI tools. What works for me sometimes is I will use, like an Otter, I'll just record, but whether it's interviews or I'll sometimes just sit in front of my computer with a glass of wine or scotch and I'll just talk like I would tell my wife or my kid my story about this topic. And because I sometimes find it difficult looking at that blank space with the little thing blinking, waiting for me to write, to actually get into it. So I'll often start initially by just talking. It can be the biggest lot of nonsense. Somewhere there's a thread in there. And then I'll ask Otter AI or some of the other tools to make sense of it, to give me ideas and the structure. So some people, I guess, take a piece of paper and, like you said, with the colors, use AI if you need to, but get away, because what I struggle with is I've got 1,000 thoughts about this piece, but to actually put it on a piece of paper that makes sense is a massive struggle for me. Any comments and advice on that?
Well, what you've said about sort of taking a dictation machine and then running it through Otter, I've always said to people when they start writing, and I've always said to people who approach me about advice about writing a book, is to do exactly what you're doing, because we freeze when we have this idea of, oh no, now I'm writing, and then all of a sudden we become pompous and verbose, and we don't talk the way that we don't write the way that we talk, and it then becomes like I don't know, we think we just got to be intellectuals or something, and then it kind of stops the whole process. So doing that, talking into a phone and just letting the ideas go without the structure that you feel is required of you in writing is brilliant. I think it's like a number one thing to do. And then it does help to then have those little summaries from Otter. I don't always agree with them. In fact, very seldom I'm like, no, there was a gem there that you've missed. So I like to play games with it. But it is helpful. And I think that's the way of using AI as a writing tool rather than having someone write. The idea of AI writing copy that is compelling. I know it's coming. It's disrupting the industry big time. I still prefer to use it as a tool. I find that if somebody gives me an AI written piece, it takes me longer to edit it because it's got hidden hiccups in it that you've got to pick up. So it's not always more time effective. But yeah, I would say keep doing that. Just use the tool where you can use the tool and find ways to get words down, because often it's easier to then edit than start with the blank screen. The blank thing is hard. It takes a long time of writing, and it also helps if you've got a clear theme, and I need to write about junk bonds or something, and that's your topic. But if you've got a million ideas in your head, where do you start? In which case, pick a theme, explore the theme, and then maybe write them down and do them bit by bit.
I heard a quote once. It's a famous quote, and I have no idea who said it, but I think it was a man who said, "Don't ask me what I think about something until I've read what I've written about it." And I must tell you, especially when I wrote for Business Day, which was a weekly deadline, and I've got a few other clients and publications, the fact that I have to sit down and research and make sure I know what my view is and work on, because if I don't have deadlines, I probably would never write, because I will just wash the dishes and do the laundry. But I learned so much through researching the article and also to figure out what I think. Even if a year later I look at that article and I go, oh my word, I've grown so much, which is good. So even if I think if people never publish, but they should, even if it's just LinkedIn, it is a wonderful process of self-improvement. What I want to ask you as we almost conclude, Cara, are just aspiring young writers who maybe have written a bit on LinkedIn, maybe a blog, but they want to knock on the door of a publication or an editor. They're not known. They don't have much of a profile. I don't know if many editors, given the craziness of publishing, is even open for it. But what would you say to a young person who know they've got a voice? They want to write. What are some of the initial steps you think that they should take?
I think first of all, things have changed so much since the days when I was looking for those opportunities. But the first thing I would say, and we touched on it earlier, you're not going to get a column where you're just giving your opinion, immediately. That comes to precious few. I've never had one offered, and I've been doing this for ages. So first of all, be realistic about what you're shooting for. And then I would say also join associations. If you're freelancing, the South African Freelance Association, there's bodies you can join as well where you can kind of network and get to know people and approach people like myself for mentorship. You'd be surprised at how open people are to just giving you some advice or having a read of an article, just giving you some direction. And then find out who, if you're looking at a newspaper, get hold of a news editor, find out who they are by name, send them an email, be proactive, don't sort of just send it off into a general email. Actually find out who you're speaking to, contact them on LinkedIn. It's a wonderful resource. You can get hold of people directly if you befriend them, and don't be afraid to ask for things. I mean, I still do that if I'm not sure what's going on. And I mean, at the moment I'm studying, and so I've been emailing people in a slightly different field looking for advice, and they've all been absolutely wonderful. And they come back and they say, this is what I did and this is how I did it. And so I don't be afraid to do that. Keep writing. Not everything has to get published. You can keep, as you say, putting blogs up on LinkedIn, looking for writing competitions, which there are, looking to supply free content. Don't do it for too long, but just to get your foot in. So there are opportunities. Just have a look there. It depends where they want to go. Nowadays it's podcasts and blogs and podcasts and all sorts of other avenues and that sort of thing. So experiment, look for different options, speak to people, make contacts, network.
Yeah, it's also about tenacity, which is, I think, what you're saying, Cara. I think I wrote to the editors of different newspapers for about 2 years, and no one replied. Yeah. But I kept on writing because, to your point, even if no one ever reads it or you don't get it published, the benefit to you to keep on writing, keep on learning. And then I met somebody at a conference who was a contributor to this newspaper, who connected me with the editor in a personal message, appealing to him. And then he said, okay, send me some of your pieces. Luckily, I had hundreds. I sent him 4 or 5, and I got in. But it's tenacity. If you believe you have a message, and no matter who will ever read it, keep on going. And the point of this forum is we need people's voices. We need their experience. We need their unique views as Africans, and especially as women in Africa. You have a moral objective, an opportunity, and a responsibility to share with people who need to hear what you need to hear. Cara, before we end it off, it was so great to chat with you. Any concluding comments?
I'm going to add one more thing, just exactly what you were saying about sort of women in media in Africa. And there's an organization which I love called African Women in Media. And I actually went to their annual conference in Senegal at the end of 2024, which was absolutely amazing. And they have a magnificent online presence. You know, they put up this conference. They do reports. They advocate for women in media spaces. Find them on LinkedIn. If you're a woman in media in Africa, find them, and you'll have a network of women from all over the continent, which is wonderful because everybody's dealing with different things. So look for organizations like that. Look for organizations like Africa No Filter, which is now starting to put out content. There's a wonderful organization called the Migrant Press as well in Edinburgh, I think it is. And they all look for content. You know, content is key at the moment. So if you can write and you're prepared to be tenacious and you're prepared to take a few risks, there are opportunities. So and just network, exactly what you said. Sometimes you get a break when you don't expect it.
Oh, Cara, listen, every time we've spoken, especially the times you've interviewed me, wisdom, grace, beautiful to chat with you. It's a pity you're so far away. We should get a serious glass of well, scotch or wine, but 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 yeah, I think there's so much that our audience will benefit from your wisdom. I'll also add your LinkedIn detail to the post when it goes out. I think people reach out to Cara. Obviously, it's about time limitations and the like, but you made a point earlier. People are surprisingly open to help. So don't think that person is too experienced, too important. I will just bother them. Reach out. Cara, with the work you're doing in your business and with your various clients, I wish you the best. I look forward to keep on collaborating with you. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, and all the best for the future going forward.
And thanks for creating such a great platform. We need this, so thank you.
Oh, thank you.